On this channel, Million Dollars Made Easy, we love to run numbers for people. What we often see in the financial channels and financial publications are questions like, can I retire with $500,000? Or how long will my money last if I have $1,000,000? Well, the question needs to be answered first. What are your expenses expected to be? Because that everything's dependent on what you think your expenses will be in retirement, um, taking into account whether you get a pension, whether you get a Social Security or whatever. But let's just say, for example, somebody figures they need $4,000 a month for their expenses after taking into account what they're getting from Social Security or pensions or whatever. So we're going to go ahead and click on 4%. We're also going to do a 3% COLA. Now we can start running some numbers. We're also going to do a 70-30 split for an asset allocation, means 70% going into the S&P 500 or staying in the S&P 500 and 30% going into a cash reserve, some kind of a bucket. So now we need to start running the numbers. Let's look at $1,000,000. Somebody who reaches retirement, they have $1,000,000. That would be a 4.8% withdrawal rate, which is a little bit higher than the 4% recommended rule. But we're going to run the numbers for every single year for the last 100 years to see where somebody might be given this scenario. Again, we're going to project ahead using returns from the past. If they won't exactly repeat, but we're just going to look at these numbers. I want you to notice 3 times in the last 100 years, you would have run out of money. And oftentimes people run Monte Carlos and they give you kind of they use a Monte Carlo simulation. They let you know, oh, you might run out of money here, you might run out of money there. And I like to see the actual numbers. And so that's why we do it right here. If you want to see a graph, this is the actual graph. So given the scenario we just looked at, there's been 3 times you run out of money, 1929 and 30 and the year 2000. Every other scenario, you'd be okay. In other words, after 20 years, 96% of the time you have a success rate, which is often what they talk about, the success rate right here. And the 30-year success rate would be 95.8 because 30 years you'd be running out of money in 1928 with the returns you had in 1928. But I want to go ahead and move down here because right now that's really quite bearable. Just unless you think we're going to have depression type returns or even the year 2000, which is possible. Most of the time, again, 96.3% of the time you'd be fine, 95.8% of the time after 30 years. Let's move this down here. We're going to move this down to 900,000. Still, you need the 4,000 because that's not going to change. If you've already calculated, that's what you need in your expenses. So we're going to see, okay, $1,000,000 looks like it'd be fine in most every situation, 96% of the time. Now with 900,000, 91% of the time you'd be okay. You'd be a few more years around the depression years and a couple more around the year 2000. Again, those are always the problem areas in the last 100 years. So let's go ahead and see in this case, like I said, 91.4% of the time after 20 years, you'd still be okay. Only 8.6% of the time would you fail. Let's go ahead and do it with 800,000. That's what we do this channel. We just can run all kinds of different numbers for you. We could change the asset allocation. We could change your COLA. But really, we based everything on what you think you're going to need because that tells you whether you think you can retire or not with these certain amounts. So we're going to do 800,000. Now we're up to a 6% withdrawal rate, by the way. The farther we get from 4%, the more you're going to see these numbers get higher. The 7 times in the 20 years. Now it's 11 times in the first 20 years and 20 times in the first 30 years that you run out of money. You'd have an 86.4% success rate. In fact, half the time you'd have over $1 million when you only start out with 800,000, $1 million after 20 years. Well, let's go ahead and look at the graph here. Still got the times around the depression, around the year 2000. Pretty soon we're going to have 73, 74 kicking in. Why do I say that? Because right here, 1973 and 74. Again, it depends on what happens those initial years. They call that sequence of return risk. Right now, we're just dealing with sequence of return risk during the depression years and the sequence of return risk between 2000, 2002, and also down 37% in 2008. Now we're going to look at one where there's 2 down years. And let's see. Check. Oh, we want to go to let's go to 750,000 here, because pretty soon we're going to get more around the year 73, 74. So let's go ahead and update this. We've got 11 and 20 right now. We're up to 6.4% withdrawal rate. Okay, now up to 19 times. Now we've got the 73, 74 period kicking in because those 2 down years. Again, you always got to look and see what might be happening those initial years. And when you have, usually it's okay with just 1 down year. But if you start having 2 down years and especially 3 and 4 down years in a row, that's when the sequence of return risk can really hurt you. So in this case, 750,000 would be a little bit iffy if we would have returns. Again, right here, if we have returns like the depression years or returns like 73 and 74, or again around the year 2000. Let's go with one other scenario here. Let's go 650,000. Again, we're basing all this on you expecting to need 4,000 a month after taking in all your other income sources, and that's what you figure you're going to need. We're going to go ahead and update this. I'm going to see how many times you run out of money in the first 20 years and the first 30 years. Now we're up to 34 times. That's getting kind of uncomfortable. So what's this showing us? Again, there's quite a few times you're running out of money. What's this showing us? It's showing us that if you really need 4,000 a month for your expenses, you're probably not going to retire with 650,000. You're probably going to be probably work a little bit longer to build this up, or you could go to a 2% COLA. Let's just see if that makes much difference in these numbers right here. But that's what we can do on this channel. We can run numbers for you, all kinds of different scenarios. See if that, I'll cut it down from 34 down to 26. We can change the asset allocation, but change that to 60-40. I know from past experience, these are going to get worse. And I'll explain why in a minute. 26 into 32, you go up to 33. Why did it go, even though you increased your asset allocation, or you decrease the amount staying in the S&P 5 and you put more in the cash reserve, because the cash reserve is only paying you 3%, but you're taking out 7.38%. So you're losing ground because your cash reserve is not keeping up with what you're taking out. It's not even close to 7.38%. So hopefully this will make sense to you. That's what I love to do, run numbers for people. And the question keeps coming up, can I retire with $500,000? Can I retire with $1 million? It all depends on what you figure your monthly expenses are going to be, what you can live on. Then you can start running these other numbers. But that's what we do on this channel. We run numbers for people. You want me to run numbers for you? Just give me 3 pieces of information: your beginning balance, your monthly contribution in the accumulation stage, or in this case, your withdrawal stage, and your desired increase or COLA. And we'll go ahead and run the numbers for you. Thanks for watching the channel. Please consider subscribing, sharing, and liking these videos. Let others know there's a channel out there that'll run numbers for them. Again, please like the video, and thanks for watching.